This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Gary Financial. My name is Ryan Stutz. Always good to be on the show with Logan. Logan, how's it going, my man?
I tell you what, Ron, I'm doing great this week and looking forward to a great show. Hopefully you are as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of interesting things to talk about today. And first of all, let me put your phone number out there for folks who may be listening for the very first time. Here's how you get in touch with Logan Sadler and the folks at Gary Financial. 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. And stand by. I'll be giving you that number later on in the day as well, but you can get a conversation with Logan Sadler that's absolutely free and there's no obligation involved. Well, starting out the show today, kind of an interesting story, and as we kind of travel around the world to Karachi, Pakistan, commuters there experienced an unusual traffic jam recently when a lion was roaming in the city streets. Authorities say the lion escaped from a private vehicle and was loose for about 2 hours before they captured it. My first question is, what in the world is a lion doing in a private vehicle in the first place?
Yeah, I don't know how many times we've done something like this on the show, right, with like a fun fact of the week or some type of news article like this, and it's more amazing we haven't seen more exotic animals while we're out there on the road apparently, but yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they were transporting it or something like that. I'm not sure, but I tell you what, where I live at, I would be rather shocked to see a lion in the middle of the street.
Well, a lot of strange things happen around here, but, I don't think you're going to see a lion anytime soon just walking down the street. That would freak me out, I can tell you that much. But Crazy things happen around the world, that's for sure. And today, let's talk about financial planning around the world. Different countries around the world all have their own unique cultures and values when it comes to money. So, Logan, let's explore to some of these countries and see what lessons we might be able to learn. First of all, let's talk about Japan. Japanese households have a long tradition of saving aggressively, and they're pretty much known for their high savings rates. What do you consider to be an aggressive savings rate, and what do you normally recommend to your clients?
Yeah, that's a good topic there. Like you said, there's different types of areas of the world, right, where they might just be a little bit more frugal and a little bit more attention to detail when it comes to spending and saving and things like that. And here in the U.S., we see a pretty wide dynamic, right? So I meet with a lot of different people from different backgrounds, and some very wealthy and some just getting started in some cases. And it's interesting because the amount that you should be saving is really obviously dependent on your situation and where you're at. But I always say a percentage of income is a good place to start, right? So I always tell clients you want to be, of course, depending on age and things like that, you definitely want to try to be saving around 10 to 15%, if possible, for retirement, right? That is a different savings rate, right, than maybe personal savings, but you definitely want to be saving close to that 10 to 15% of your income, if possible, towards your retirement accounts. And if you're older, maybe later on in your working years, you might want to be saving a little bit more because retirement might be coming a little bit faster than you might be ready for. Yeah. And then you throw in things like maybe personal savings, right? Because obviously you still want to have money in the bank accounts and things like that. So I would say another 10 or 15%, if possible, somewhere in that realm would be nice. I've met clients, which that would put you at a total savings rate of anywhere from 20 to 30% of total income. That might be very, very high for some of you out there. Really? Might be, high hopes, but believe it or not, I've met people that save 50% of their income, right? Just depending on what type of situation they're in. And then I've met people that save 0% of their income. So you want to be somewhere in the middle there, if possible, and start focusing, if you can, a little bit more on the saving percentages, right? So, some people say, well, that's great. I save, $200 a month or whatever it is. Try to look at it as a percentage of your income, right? So if you're making $100,000 a year, if you could be saving anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 a year at some point into your retirement accounts, that is awesome, right? Yeah. And then start on your personal rates as well, maybe 5 or 10% if you could. towards your personal savings, which would be great too, right? So kind of factor that in there as a percentage.
Well, that goes from one extreme to the other. 50% of your income all the way down to zip. Zero.
Yeah. I've seen clients that make $300,000 a year, and man, they spend $300,000 a year, right? And I have clients that make $50,000 a year, and they spend all $50,000 a year, right? Yeah. So it's you definitely, like you were saying, you want to try to find a middle boundary there and get focused on that savings rate.
Well, let's move over to Germany for a second. Most Germans are very averse to debt. They prefer to pay everything in cash, and they're very hesitant to buy anything on credit. How do you advise people when it comes to debt, and what do you consider to be good debt and bad debt?
Yeah, that's a really great point. We're sure traveling the world here, right? Jumping from Japan to Germany.
Really?
But yeah, there's a lot of ways out there. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube and articles nowadays on good debt and bad debt, right? And there is a difference between the two. One of the things I'll say is I was reading just the other day, I think it was the USA Today or something like that, where they were saying the average credit card debt for 2022 was right around $7,900. And, that's a little bit higher than a lot of people might think, maybe lower than some might think. But the matter of fact is that debt is a real thing here in the U.S., and we are one of those countries where some of us have a lot of debt, right? And some of us have good debt, maybe what you'd categorize, and this is just kind of ballparking, but what would be considered good debt for some people is assets, right? Maybe you have a house or rental properties or a building or something that is going to be building value in the future, maybe pays cash flow or something like that, right? The other thing in some cases can be education. I've had a lot of people where, they are maybe a nurse, and if they go back to school, they can get their RN and make a little bit more money, right? To me, that sounds like a very good type of situation, right? You pay, $20,000 to make an extra $20,000 a year, probably makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. Bad debt, I would say, though, is things like credit cards, personal loans, maybe some bad car loans and things like that in there. The other thing, though, is in the same instance is school debt. I have some people that have spent lots of money in areas that they're probably never, ever going to use that degree, right? It doesn't help them make any more income. It's completely irrelevant to the field they're in, and maybe it was past choices and stuff like that, but no matter the fact is it does create a lot of extra money you have to pay monthly to pay back those student loans. So there's different ways to categorize it, but those are, I would say, is two of the areas you want to focus on. And trying to keep your overall debt as low as possible is definitely, for a majority of you out there, is the way to go. Yeah,
I see a lot of people with degrees in, let's say political science or something, and then they're doing something totally unrelated, and that happens a lot for sure.
And some of them, they don't even need a degree to do that job, right? But they have their degree, and I get it. A lot of us, that's one of our personal goals and things. I totally understand, and education's awesome. Yeah. But you don't want to go into debt for it if you don't necessarily need it.
Well, let's go back to an Asian country here. We're kind of skipping around a lot, but
have to draw a map here.
Yeah, exactly. Traditional Chinese culture values frugality and considers thriftiness a big virtue. Many Chinese people go to great pains to avoid unnecessary expenditures. They're very tight with their money, you might say. What are the most common unnecessary expenses that you see people here in America wasting money on?
Yeah, that's a great spot. That's a great question to kind of focus in on, I'd say, is we all waste money on certain areas, right? Some of us have hobbies like golf, or maybe we like guns, or maybe we like sewing, or whatever it is, right? I mean, there's so many different hobbies and stuff like that out there, fishing, all that stuff, right? So we all spend money in those areas, and we would call that entertainment, right? Yeah. It's a fun way to put it, where it sounds like it's okay to spend money there, right? But there's other areas where I've seen people like, Ron, we have car payments nowadays, right, that are $800 to $1,200 per month, right? A lot of us like having the newer car, so I've seen car payments, they're paying $1,200 a month for this truck or this car, right?
My goodness.
I wouldn't call it a waste of money, but for a lot of us, that's a lot more than we should be spending per month on certain things. The other thing nowadays, especially for maybe our younger demographic, I'd say our clients that are 55 and younger probably, they're buying Chipotle or In-N-Out or Chick-fil-A or something like that, right? But they're paying food delivery services to take it to them when they're at home, right? They could have went and got that. There's little things here and there where you could see where us as Americans, a lot of us don't mind spending money, right? And so it's one of those things where it's great to cycle and stimulate the economy. However, when you look at your overall budget with certain things like entertainment, eating out, things like that, where it just really, really can add into a budget where if you were able to, cook at home, or maybe you didn't have to have the newest car today, right now, right? Things like that where we could really kind of cut down on the overall budget, as well as vacations and things like that too. I've seen some people where they take 4 or 5 or 6 very nice trips a year, which is great. You want to enjoy things, but if it doesn't fit into the budget, then you got to make sure you're looking at what the budget's telling you to do, not just necessarily your heart and your feelings and all that, right?
Well, I can tell you what happens in my situation. We go out to eat a lot,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's really a lot of fun. We really enjoy it, get a lot of pleasure out of it, and maybe we might do it too much.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I'm going to throw me and my wife in that same category. We love a nice dinner.
Yeah.
And there's ways around that though, right? Where maybe you don't go out Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? Maybe you do Friday and Saturday night, you go have a nice dinner or eat out or something, right?
Yeah.
There's ways to cut back and still enjoy life. I'm with you though. I don't mind. I'm very frugal when it comes to buying things, right? Like, stuff for around the house or whatever it is. But I tell you what, if you tell me you want to go to a nice dinner, I'm on board right away.
I'll be right there with you.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Italy for a second. In Italy, family is a core value. It is common for multiple generations to live together in the same house or at least close by. You might have, your parents living right down the street and that kind of thing. But at any rate, in Italy, a lot of times they share resources and also expenses. How could multiple generations of American families do a better job of working together when it comes to financial planning?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you said, though, there is a lot of families out there, I would say nowadays, where it's probably a little bit more common than it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
You're even seeing some of the houses that are being built, right? They used to call it like a mother-in-law suite or whatnot. Right now they have like, what do they call it, the next-gen house or whatnot, right, where the kids are staying home and maybe helping the parents out with bills or whatnot, and maybe the mother-in-law is living there too, right? Mm-hmm. So you're starting to see more and more of that, I think, as cost of living and things have risen. One of the things I think is awesome that I think is more prevalent now than maybe 5 or 10 years ago, and I would have to contribute that to, we think social media and things like that are have a lot of negative effects, which I would 100% agree with, but they also do have some positive effects. And I think education now is just easier to get. You don't have to read a 500-page book. You can go on there and watch a 2-minute YouTube video on how to set up a budget, right? Things like that. So I think we're starting to see more and more people, which I think is great, educate themselves, and mainly in their families, right? We're all okay with sending our kids to school, but we won't spend 5 minutes with them and tell them what a credit card is, right? So I think we're starting to see more and more of that, where you're starting to see, okay, I'm trying to teach my kid or my grandkids, like, hey, here's how you start a retirement account. Here's how you set up a budget. Things like that are going to lead to, better financial decisions. Again, doesn't always lead to success right away, but it probably will lead to a better financial outcome of some sort. And so I think it all really starts with that education realm, which I think a lot of other countries might do a little bit better in some areas than we do. And I think that's one place to really start.
Yeah, around the world, people do things differently, but right here in Southern California, Hemet, Redlands, the whole surrounding area here, a lot of people depend on Logan Sadler to help them with all of this. Not only the budgetary concerns, but everything else when it comes to getting to and through retirement. Logan, I know you love meeting new folks who call in during and after every one of our shows.
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy meeting with each and every one of you that have been calling in. And one of the best parts about the Discovery meeting, but for a lot of you guys out there that have been asking, basically what we do is we are a full financial planning firm here, and basically our firm specializes in retirement planning. So a lot of you guys out there that are getting closer to retirement, maybe you're 55 or 65 years old, and you're saying, you know what, I'm not really sure where I stand for retirement. I have a 401k, I got an IRA, might have a pension or Social Security, things like that, right? Well, what do I do with all of it? What is the whole purpose of all of that? And how do I really get my financial life on track to transition into retirement? And that's exactly what we cover at the meeting, is how our firm might be able to be a value and a benefit to you and your family to help transition you, to get you to and through retirement.
888-823-PLAN. That's a very important phone number. It is a number to call to get Regari Financial. What you need to do is leave your name and your phone number, and you'll get a call back and set up a time to have a convenient conversation with Logan Sadler. We call it a discovery meeting because you discover things about him. He discovers things about you. You get some answers to some of your basic questions. If you have some major concerns, you can talk about those. And in other words, you get to know each other a little better, and then you can move on from there if you like. It might start with a phone call, and you might want to have a visit on Zoom after that, and maybe you might want to come in one of the offices, either Hemet or Redlands. It's up to you, but it's not going to cost you anything and not going to obligate you to do anything at all. 888-823-PLAN. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler, and there's more coming up in just a moment.
At the end of the day, no one truly understands your financial wants and desires better than you. That's why it's important to have financial independence. This means you can work when you want, you know exactly where your income is coming from, and most importantly, your finances are stable. If this sounds like something you want, well, text the word advice to the number 21000. And Logan Sadler and his team at Regari Financial can provide you with their free guide on achieving financial independence. The free guide will show you how to create an action plan for getting to where you want to be. It'll explain how to calculate a financial independence goal. And it'll define what an ice egg is and why it's so important. Download it now by texting the word advice to the number 21000. Again, text the word advice to the number 21000 to gain your financial independence today.
Did you know music is good for the heart? A study at a university in Italy showed that music helps promote a better cardiovascular system. But we also know that a sound financial plan is good for peace of mind. Keep listening to the Financial Beat so we can help you find a plan that both your head and your heart can agree on.
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. You know, Regari Financial has been around for a very long time, and Logan Sadler has been around for a while, working with 3 different generations of some of the client families at Regari. Many of those clients have been with the firm for more than a quarter of a century, and you can get a discovery meeting for no cost and no obligation involved at all. 888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call to make that happen. 888-823-PLAN. Logan, not only do you have this radio show, but you have podcasts for folks who have missed past shows and want to hear the whole thing. Maybe they only caught part of a show. You can go back and get those. And also some really helpful, informative videos on YouTube. How do folks get to those YouTube videos?
Yeah, so head over to YouTube, type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, and it will bring you right there to the channel. And like you were mentioning, Ron, we have lots of videos. We upload one a week up there for you that's basically between 3 to 5 minutes long on a bunch of different retirement planning topics that a lot of you guys have been asking about. So we just kind of, if we can't get to it here on the radio show, we'll pop it up on the YouTube channel, or even a lot of you that are commenting and liking along on certain videos. We're making more and more each week for you to check out. So again, head over there, follow along, and click subscribe.
Okay, really helpful stuff on there, and you do a really good job on those, I might add. Let's talk for a few minutes here about why you do what you do. And a lot of people may be joining us for the very first time today and would love to get to know you a little bit better. So I know after doing this show with you for a long time that you're very passionate about what you do. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how you got started and why you're still doing it. Who were the influential people in your life when you were young who shaped the way that you view money and wealth? And what lessons did you learn from them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say for a lot of us out there, my answer is probably very similar. I'd say my mom and my dad did a very good job of teaching me at a young age where, you got to get up and go to work, right? And you pretty much wake up every day and work as hard as you can and, save money for a rainy day. And that really kind of helped set the groundwork for me where I grew up in a household where I had, 2 siblings, and all of us really just kind of embodied hard work. I mean, that's really what, at the end of the day, you only get what you put in, right? So I think
strong
that's really
work ethic with a Sattler family.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's really a good foundation for most of us. And then I was lucky enough where, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but I was actually a second generation financial advisor. So my mom is a financial advisor as well. So it was one of those things where obviously just some conversations I had, probably a little bit younger than most, when I was maybe 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, I was already getting, hey, you should make sure you're saving some of the money, right? Because I always had summer jobs and things like that. So it's little conversations like that, I think, really help lay the groundwork for me to start probably younger than most and have more of an interest in that side of things, I would say. But, at the end of the day, it's great if you're smart with money, but if you don't know how to go out and work, it really doesn't make much of a difference, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's kind of a follow-up question, and I think you answered part of this already, but how did you end up in the financial business?
Yeah, that's a really great question, too. So long story, I'll make it short, but essentially, like I said, my mom is a financial advisor, and she actually was a partner in Rigary Financial. And interestingly enough, the founder, Hugh Rigary, had actually kind of sought me out when I was just after I was maybe 5 years or so out of high school and college and all that stuff. And so basically he kind of was like, hey, I think you'd be great in this industry. And I was in a totally different industry at the time. And he said, hey, you know what? Why don't you come in and kind of see what we do? Because I think you'd be really good at this and be able to help a lot of people. And funny enough, I actually said no a couple different times, just because, not because I obviously knew him my whole life and really trusted the guy and all that stuff, but it was just never a good time. And as I tell our clients all the time, I think timing is everything, right?
Yeah.
And one time he just kind of mentioned it again, and the timing lined up perfectly. And so I came in, spent the day with him, my mom, and the team here at Rigary Financial. And I was here for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. And it was like, okay, this is what I want to do, right? So I've been here ever since, and went back, got all my licenses and things like that, and just hit the ground running, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, that's terrific. What people in the financial industry, and you've already answered part of this question too. You're kind of anticipating everything I'm going to say today. But tell us about the people in the financial industry who've been good influences on you and what you learned from them. And, of course, you're talking about your mom and Hugh Rigary. But, beyond that, is there anybody?
Yeah, I would say those two, like you said, are probably two of the biggest ones, as well as some people listening to the show wouldn't know, but I'm in a lot of these national coaching groups and mentor groups and things like that where I know financial advisors all across the country. So one of the things is I've just picked so many different things from each of these people throughout the years and been able to bring those thoughts and opinions and strategies and solutions into our business and help our clients. And I think one of the big things I've gathered over the years, is so many people, and we talk about it a lot on the show, is so many people focus on, I have the best stock portfolio, or this is the best annuity, or this is the best whatever, right? And I think our firm, all that stuff's great, but I think our firm, we really focus more on, and what our strategies have been kind of more designed to, is really looking at a plan, right? Understanding that a lot of people out there, they don't necessarily have a plan in place. And so we focus a lot more on the financial planning side and integrating whatever types of solutions or strategies we need to fit the plan. And I think that's really where a lot of the mentorship I've gotten is how to be a better business owner, how to treat the clients better, and how to be able to bring more and more value continuously back to our clients in the firm.
Well, I know as long as you've been doing this, you've met a lot of people and really gotten to know a lot of folks. And after all, it's all about relationships. But I'm sure you have some frustration sometimes with the way that a lot of people plan their retirement that you wish you could fix with the wave of a magic wand. What would those be?
Yeah, it's funny. I think every industry is that way, right? Doctors or nurses or construction workers or engineers, we all have things we like about our job and things we wish we could change about our job, right? And like you said, if I could wave my magic wand about some of the retirement plans, I would say the biggest thing that frustrates me the most is most people don't have a retirement plan, right? They have a 401k, they have maybe an IRA, they have a Social Security, and then they go, okay, I'll just kind of pull from this account till this one runs out, and hopefully I could do this or hopefully I could do that. But they don't really have an actual written retirement plan, right? That's one thing where I'm not sure people are really aware of how dangerous that is long term, right? Because you're not setting yourself up for failure, but you're definitely not setting yourself up for the best chance of success, right? And so I think that's one thing I would change is we really like to focus in on the retirement plan. And a lot of you guys that have came into our discovery meetings and clients that are listening to this, we use a lot of different softwares and analysis to really kind of look at, okay, here's the investments we have, here's the goals and strategies and things like that we want to employ into the plan. And also, here's how long this could last, right? We could tell you right off the bat if this is a scenario that has any chance of success, or if there's some areas we need to increase or do things differently, you can. And I think that's really one of the things that we try to focus on the most is not this product or that product or this solution, but really how is this financial plan going to work, help you solve your goals, your dreams, and your concerns, and be able to be customized to your situation?
I think I've said a couple of times already that you're passionate about what you do, and I'm wondering if, what's the most gratifying thing about your job? Is it when you were able to look yourself in the mirror every morning and think, hey, I'm going to go in today and I'm going to help somebody live a better life?
Yeah, that's definitely it. I remember Hugh or Gary back in the day when he first brought me in, he had said, you'll be able to have conversations that are going to be very, very tough with clients, right? Maybe it's, hey, you're spending too much money, or maybe it's, hey, I know you want to do this, that, and the other thing, but you might not have enough money to do that, or, loss of a loved ones. I mean, there's lots of difficult conversations that we have to have throughout the years, but every single one of those conversations is typically helping a client identify what it is they're trying to do and accomplish in their retirement. Maybe it's for them, maybe it's for their family, or whatever the case is. And I tell you what, there's nothing more gratifying than actually helping somebody put together a financial plan, help guide them through some of these challenges of losing a loved one, or setting up an estate plan for their kids, or executing a retirement plan to have the income and be able to do the things they want to do in retirement. I mean, those are some of the most fulfilling things I think you could probably do in this world. And I think that's one thing I wake up every day and I'm super grateful to have the opportunity to have so many great clients and be able to meet with so many great people throughout the years and help employ those strategies, because that is definitely the main reason we do this job, is because you got to like people, right? And you got to like the numbers and the solutions and stuff like that too. And so I think I'm just lucky every day to wake up and be able to do that and help guide people to get to and through retirement, because there's a lot of tricky questions that many of you guys have out there, right? Mm-hmm. Social Security, Medicare, taxes, right? Investments, all of that stuff can be somewhat of a foreign language to most people. And so we really do try to take that more educational route and be able to help, get together a plan that's going to help, number one, educate you on what it is you're trying to do. Is this a strategy that's even going to work or not work? And be able to employ the strategies that are going to be needed to help guide you to get to and through retirement, I think is about as satisfying as it gets.
I'm going to give out that Financial Beat phone number in just a moment here, but for the folks who may be wondering, when they make that phone call, what happens from that point on?
Yeah, great question. So you give us a call, and you call the number Ron gives you here, and basically what happens is you're going to go to a voicemail, and you leave a voicemail, give us your name, your phone number, and basically what happens is within, on Monday actually, somebody reaches out from our office to give you guys a call back and get a time schedule for you to come into one of our offices or via Zoom or a phone call. And basically what happens is we ask you to bring in all your investments, your strategy, your mortgage statement, tax returns, all of that stuff. And we actually sit down and we have a conversation, right? There's no sales tactic. There's no pressure. There's none of that stuff. We really just kind of sit down and see where you're at, see if you're a good fit for our firm, and see if we're a good fit for you and your family to help get you to and through retirement.
Okay, here's the number, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. But we find it very helpful to substitute the word plan for 7526 because it's just easier to remember. 888-823-PLAN. Call that number now. Don't wait. Or you can call after the show or anytime really. Call the number. Leave a message with your name and your phone number, and you will get a call back first part of the week. And then you can set a convenient time to have your conversation with Logan Sadler. It's called a discovery meeting. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. Remember, Logan Sadler is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. When you do have that conversation, you're going to be having it with Logan Sadler, same person you hear on this show every single week. You're listening to the Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz. He's Logan Sadler. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show because we have some important information coming up.
Welcome back to more of the Financial Beat. The beat goes on, as they say, with Logan Sadler, VP, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. Remember, at Regary Financial, they have great partnerships with local attorneys, real estate agents, CPAs, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists, all those folks involved with the financial end of life to help offer well-rounded guidance in all things financial for clients. You can get a discovery meeting for no cost whatsoever, and you're not going to be obligating yourself to do anything at all. Logan Sadler's on this show every single week, and you will be talking with him in that discovery meeting. If you want to have a conversation one-on-one, the number to call is 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. Now, Regary Financial has two convenient offices, one in Hemet, one in Redlands, and the number again to call is 888-823-PLAN. Just thought you'd like to know. Very important phone number. Please write it down if you haven't already. Very, very important. You know, this week has been really kind of tough to do some recollecting and remembering what happened 22 years ago. Yep. On September 11th, 2001, we had the Twin Towers go down, and just a traumatic experience for everybody in America, and certainly we can't let this show go by without mentioning all those folks who were lost to that just atrocious, terrible event.
Yep. Yeah, well said. It's one of those things where you like the saying, right? And never forget. And so it's still amazing. And I think one of the things we were talking about before the show, I think, right, where is like it's amazing some of the footage and stuff that's still coming out, and it I had not seen, right? And it's been a long time since it happened, and still seeing new angles and things of it. I mean, every single one of them still brings chills after all these years.
Yeah, and all the respect in the world to the firefighters and everybody else who helped in that situation. They saved so many people, and my God, I have respect for firefighters anyway, big time.
Absolutely, yeah. Firefighters, first responders, military, all of them. It's amazing.
Yeah, they do amazing work every single day. Something a little more pleasant with our history. 403 years ago, so over 400 years ago, September 16th, 1620, the Mayflower left from England carrying 102 pilgrims.
Wow.
I didn't know the number was that small.
Me either. I thought it was a lot more than that. Right?
Yeah. I may have learned it at one time during school, but I just forgot,
Yeah, one of the things I always say, and I'll continue to say this, is men and women back then were just built different, right? I mean, to hop, we have people nowadays that are scared to go on a cruise, right? And it's got pools and open bars and entertainment, and these people jumped on ships and went. They didn't have maps or anything back then, right? They just basically followed the stars, right? And it is amazing to me how tough men and women were back then. Yeah. Not taking anything away from anybody today, but just saying, it's the stuff that our ancestors and founding fathers and all that stuff before us. It is just amazing how adventurous and how dead set on finding something better they were.
Yeah, and people had to be tougher back then, and I mean, they took a lot of risk, I suppose, and without a lot of safety measures in place, and that's just one of the myriad of reasons why people didn't live as long back then as they do now.
Very well put. Very well put.
And we talk about that a lot. Let's talk about some of the financial matters that people tend to push off to a later date. We all really love kicking the can down the road sometimes.
Why not, right?
And I'm just wondering if you think it's good or bad to put certain things off, and if it depends on the situation. What about deferring taxes? Is that good or bad, or are you going to give me one of those it depends answers?
Yeah, you're not going to like it, but it depends, right? During deferring taxes, here's the problem I'll say with that first, right, is one of the things we see time and time again is we've all been taught to do traditional 401ks or traditional IRAs or use maybe products that have deferral in them, which we've all been said, hey, defer taxes till retirement or defer taxes till a later date and let that money grow tax deferred, look at the advantages of it, and then down the road when you're in a lower tax bracket, you'll pull money out and pay taxes down the road when you're in a lower tax bracket, right? And from the concept of that, it sounds perfect, right? I mean, doesn't that make sense to not pay taxes now while you're making good money and defer it when you're not making good money and take taxes out at maybe a lower rate?
Yep.
Right? It all sounds good on paper. The problem is what we've seen is we really probably a lot of people couldn't have factored in 30 years ago how things have really looked nowadays, where the problem is, and the good problem is, most of us have accumulated large amounts of wealth in deferred accounts, right? And so maybe for some of us our wealth is $200,000, maybe for some of us it's $10 million or $5 million, right? It just depends. The problem is that we all envisioned us in this very low tax bracket scenario in retirement. And the problem is for some of us is we're not in a much lower tax bracket, if at all, in retirement, right? If we wanted $100,000 a year while we were working, we probably still want close to $100,000 a year in retirement to enjoy our retirement, right? So one of the things is our taxes will probably be very relatively the same for some people. Again, not for everybody. The other thing is what I always hear from people is, what happens if tax rates go up, right? Yeah. We've never really factored that in until recently, where we say, if I'm only paying a 22% tax, a federal tax today, what happens if that went up to 30% down the road, right? When you take money out, you'd be paying effectively 30% on that, right? So it's one of those things where it doesn't give us a lot of long-term tax control. And one of the things you'll see for a lot of people is in retirement, having that tax control by using things like maybe life insurance products or Roth conversion strategies, or even after-tax brokerage accounts. Those types of things can be very effective in retirement for having some tax diversification. So, tax deferral can be a very good thing for a lot of people, but for a lot of us, it could be kicking the can down the road to a time where taxes could potentially be much higher than now.
Yeah, and bottom line here is, just to simplify matters, if you have $100,000 in an account right now and you retire, you don't really have $100,000 if it's been deferred, because Uncle Sam's going to be standing there, holding out his hand for a big portion of that. So,
Absolutely. It's one of the big problems, right? And that's one of the things that we always talk about here at our firm, like we always talk on the show too, is how important understanding your tax plan is.
Mm-hmm. And doing tax planning in advance, really, really helps. Here's something else that you might put off: eliminating debt. And I'm guessing that, putting that off is a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's one thing I won't give you it depends. Definitely eliminating debt for majority of you out there is one of the highest return on investments you're going to get, right? I was talking to a client the other day, and they said, I have $15,000 on a credit card that's, getting paid at, I think they had like a 12 or 13% interest, which is actually quite low for most things, for most credit cards.
Yeah.
And it was funny. He goes, should I put into my Roth IRA this year, or should I put a chunk towards that credit card, right? And it was funny because I was like, hey, give me your statement, for example, right? So he brought in his statement from his IRA, and it was funny because he's averaged like a 5.5% return, right? And I said, well, perfect. Let's just do the quick math here, right? You've averaged 5.5% here, which again, it's not guaranteed, could go up or down based off that number, but you have a guarantee of, that 10 or 12% or whatever it was on that credit card, right? Yeah, yep. So we want to get that paid off. And for majority of the people out there, getting the debt paid off is going to be probably your highest return on investment for a lot of us out there. Again, there's different real estate or different things like that where it might not make sense to pay those down or whatnot. But for a majority of us out there, getting rid of the debt as soon as possible is going to free up income and cash flow for now and for retirement to either increase savings or increase cash flow. So yeah, I would definitely say for majority of you out there, getting debt down is as urgent as possible for most of us.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Again, Logan at Regari Financial. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you're hearing some things in this conversation today that are making you think about your own situation. Maybe it's a good idea to call that number and get arranged a conversation with Logan about your individual scenario. Setting up legal and estate documents. And Logan, I know enough to know that it's never a bad idea to go ahead and take care of that right now.
Yeah, great point. One thing I heard a long time ago from an attorney of ours, and it probably transitions to most businesses, right, where just because you're in a rush or it's an emergency for you, it doesn't constitute an emergency on the other side, right? So if something does happen in your family or a health emergency or things like that, most of the time when you really, really need to get something done, you probably can't, right? Whether the attorneys are busy or whether maybe now that person's incompetent or they've passed away or things like that, right? So one of the biggest things I always tell clients when we're going over the financial review, and that's one of the things that's one of our first few questions we ask during our discovery meeting is, do you have estate planning documents? Do you have a trust, a will? If so, great. When have they been reviewed? 1999. Okay, well, we probably need to get that reviewed again, right? So things like that are very, very important, because when it comes to the orchestrating the financial plan, a lot of that is all great. We could have the best investments and tax strategy and all that set up, but if our estate plan is not written down and in concrete, then a lot of that could just go to waste, right? By paying extra attorney fees or probate or things like that. So having those done is extremely important. And I tell you from personal experience, just updated all my stuff recently, and it's one of those things where you want to get that done, and once you get it done, you kind of go, man, I can't believe I went that long without getting that done or getting that updated. Yeah. And definitely a sense of urgency there on your estate plan. You want to make sure things are done and done right and how you wanted them.
Here's one of those it depends questions. Delaying the start of your Social Security really depends entirely on your individual situation. Some people should go ahead and take it when they can, other folks not. And
it's funny as I knew you were going to ask that at some point.
Yeah, really. And it's a big question for a lot of folks. They can't decide when they should take their Social Security.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you out there that are listening to the show and want to know more on Social Security and numbers and why would you delay, why would you do this, you can head over to the YouTube channel. I've done quite a few different videos on Social Security and did some different, mathematics and estimations and things for people just to give you some general rules of thumb or some general advice. But you're 100% right, Ron. When you look at Social Security, it's one of those things that it is, for a lot of us out there, one of our biggest income sources, and for a lot of us, maybe even our biggest and only guaranteed income source, right? Yeah. By like a pension and things like that. So it's one of those things where a lot of you, it makes sense to delay it. I've ran the numbers. A lot of people go, the break-even point, this or that, the other thing. Yes, but the problem is most of us are going to need more money later in retirement, right? A lot of the times we're going to continue to work, so it might not make a whole lot of tax sense to take it early and all those types of things. Then there's a lot of you where at 62 it might make sense, right? Maybe you have health problems, maybe you're retiring and need the money, or maybe you're taking one of the Social Securities and letting the other one sit that has the highest benefit, right? There's a lot of strategies I can go into here where it might make sense to do this, that, or the other thing, and you want to make sure you're meeting with somebody to help go over that and understand your situation.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to throw out here. We're talking about, putting things off, kicking the can down the road, as we've mentioned a couple of times today. Meeting with an advisor like Logan Sadler, that is not a good idea to put that off. Go ahead and do it now.
Yeah, great point, Ron. I think one of the things is I always tell people the more time we have, the better, right? So a lot of you guys, I always call it the fast track to retirement, right? They come in at 65, retiring next month. Well, there's a lot to do, right? There's a lot of things to unpack. Number one, can you retire, right? Have you even ran the numbers to see what your plan would look like? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? So one of the things I always tell clients, if you're retiring, the best thing you can do is contact an advisor and making sure you establish that relationship and are able to go over what your plan is going to look like. Some of you might be 60 and retiring at 65. Perfect. That gives us 5 years to help get things in place, orchestrate things. Some of you guys are 60 and retiring at 62, right? So all those times where you can do things ahead of time, typically the better outcome for the plan and the more understanding you'll have of your upcoming retirement plan. So you definitely don't want to wait and put this off. It is one of those things where it doesn't seem real urgent until you start getting ready for retirement and you go, oh man, I'm retiring next month. I have no idea what my income's going to look like or how this is going to look like. What's my tax situation? How long will my income last? All of those types of things. So definitely make sure you're reaching out to an advisor. And again, for those of you out there that are interviewing advisors, or maybe you have an advisor and you're going, you know what, I haven't heard from him or her in a long time. I don't feel like I'm getting the planning and the guidance I actually need when it comes to retirement planning. Maybe it's time you reach out to a specialist. Again, our specialty is specializing in retirement planning. Most of our clients are typically over the age of 55 and they're approaching retirement and they've gathered assets. They have retirement accounts and things like that set up, but they're looking for a way to maximize those and to get a financial plan put together to make sure they have that solid retirement plan they'd always envisioned. If that's you out there, go ahead and give us a call. I'd love to spend an hour with you here at one of our offices or via Zoom and see if we can't bring some value to you in your retirement.
888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. You know, you may have done a really good job during your years in the workplace, putting aside money and accumulating assets, but that distribution phase is completely different than the accumulation phase, and you got to know exactly what you're doing in order to maximize the money you have to get to and through retirement and have the kind of lifestyle you've always wanted. Logan Sadler can help, even if you have worked with a financial advisor in the past or maybe a broker. I mean, that's not a financial advisor who takes everything into account the way Logan Sadler and the guys at Regary Financial do. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to get that conversation going. It is a discovery meeting, and you can do it via Zoom if you like, or you can come into one of the offices, either Redlands or Hemet, totally up to you. It's not going to cost you anything and not going to carry with it any kind of obligation. 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler will be right back after this official timeout.
At the end of the day, no one truly understands your financial wants and desires better than you. That's why it's important to have financial independence. This means you can work when you want, you know exactly where your income is coming from, and most importantly, your finances are stable. If this sounds like something you want, well, text the word advice to the number 21000. And Logan Sadler and his team at Regary Financial can provide you with their free guide on achieving financial independence. The free guide will show you how to create an action plan for getting to where you want to be. It'll explain how to calculate a financial independence goal. And it'll define what an ICE egg is and why it's so important. Download it now by texting the word advice to the number 21000. Again, text the word advice to the number 21000 to gain your financial independence today.
1, 2, 3, 4!
When musicians are performing, they typically need someone to count them into each song. Without that count in, the musicians might be out of sync and the song could fall apart. It's similar to your financial plan. All of your investments must be in sync, working towards your financial goals. Keep listening to The Financial Beat and learn how to make sure that your investments are playing together perfectly.
We're back now with more of The Financial Beat. The beat goes on, as I say. Logan Sadler is the Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. Logan has not just this radio show, but podcasts that are available for you wherever you get your podcasts, and a YouTube channel with a variety of YouTube videos out there that are extremely helpful. You might want to check him out. But if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan, here's a number for you, 888-823-7526. Logan works with 3 different generations of some of the client families at Regary Financial. Many clients have been with the firm for a very long time. The clients predominantly are 55 and up, and Logan Sadler specializes in getting people to and through retirement. Again, the number to call is 888-823-PLAN. Let's launch right into the mailbag segment of our show today. A lot of people send in questions either via email, the regular mail, or sometimes they call with these questions. And we got a good question today from Judy in Homeland. And Judy says, Logan, I'm 60 years old. My mom is 93, and she's not in great health. My plan is to stay here close to her until she's gone and then move out of state. The problem is that I hate my job and would like to retire now, but don't feel I have enough money to do that right now. Would it be unwise to quit now and start withdrawing from my 401k with the knowledge that I will be getting an inheritance from my mom eventually when she passes away?
Yeah, great question, Judy. Thanks for writing in. And again, yeah, great question. I like there's a lot to unpack there. So, like you said, there's a lot going on there with everything. But one of the things I would say is you kind of answered the question internally, right? And I'll kind of repeat this back in my mindset. So one of the things I would look at is I understand you don't like your job, but you're very, very close, right? You're very close to where you'll be able to retire. And like you said, you might have an inheritance coming at some point. The reason I say might is because you have no idea how long mom will live, right? Mom could live she's 93. She could live 2 more years. She could live, 8, 9 more years, right? You never know. And the problem is you never know how expensive healthcare is going to cost her down the road, right? So it's one of those things where there might not be as much money left as you might think. So I wouldn't want to exhaust your 401k or use as much of your money as you could just to retire and get by and help mom. And then all of a sudden, if mom lives a little too long or uses up too much of her money, your inheritance could be a lot less than you might have thought, right? So I would definitely say, give us a call. Let's kind of go over your situation. Let's see how much you would have to take out of your 401k, what type of income you would need to get by, and also what type of inheritance is coming, and kind of do some estimations to see how that would all work out, because there's a lot to unpack there, and you're definitely at a crucial age where you're 60 years old and you're at a point where, it's a very pivotal point. You don't want to retire too early, but you also probably don't want to work too long, right? So let's run those numbers and kind of see where you stack up and see what might be the way to go financially before making any big decisions.
Yeah, Judy, very important to give Logan a call and talk specifics, get down to, the numbers and all of that. He can give you a much more specific answer if he knows more about your situation. But very important, as Logan would say, to do all the right things with your money at this point. Jay says, I've heard about a strategy using life insurance to create income for yourself in retirement. And certainly, Logan, we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Is this a legitimate strategy?
Yeah, it sounds too good to be true, right? Yes, it is something. There's a couple different ways to verbiage it, but one of the more popular ones is called an IUL, an Index Universal Life. That is a way, Jay, where basically you could put after-tax money, so cash you have in the bank or whatever, and you can either fund them over a period of time, or some of the better ones are a lump sum. So let's say you said, hey, Logan, I got $200,000 I want to put away, and I'm looking to take some income off it in maybe 5 to 10 years, depending on the time frame, some maybe longer, depending on what you want to do. And you could actually put that $200,000 in the policy, and how it works is essentially right on day one, you get a pretty significant death benefit depending on health. Again, it's qualified through health because it's life insurance. So they give you a pretty decent death benefit, which is a great part of it. But to us, what we use a lot of it for is they also provide an income payout at a certain age, depending on when you're ready to take income. And the income, if done correctly, you could take loans from the policy, which can come out tax-free. So it is something where we use those a lot for clients if we have an IRA and 401ks and things of that sort. And now we're looking at, we have some cash, maybe a sale of a home or inherited some money, or you just have extra cash. It is a great way to do a lump sum in there and generate some tax-free income a few years down the road. Again, some of the policies are structured to sit longer than others, and some of them have death benefits. And like I said, it's a great way to kind of leverage some money, yes, for a death benefit, but also for a living benefit, which is that income, right? And again, if done correctly, those can be tax-free. And I would love to show you what those look like. Again, something we use a lot for clients depending on the situation, but it can be one of those tools that is super, super underused out there for some of our clients. Again, not for all of your money. The market and annuities and stocks, bonds, all that stuff still has its purpose, but they can fit in there depending on the client, depending on what you're trying to do. They can be a very unique fit for retirement planning.
Next question here, Ray in French Valley. And Ray says, I have life insurance through my job, a term life policy that's good for another 12 years, and a whole life policy that I bought several years ago. Do I really need all this life insurance, or do you think I should cancel some of it?
Yeah, great question. I see this a lot where people come in, they got 4 or 5 different life insurance policies, right? And it's only $50 a month, but then you do that, times 4 or 5, right? So great question. The one thing I always urge people on and really want to take caution with is you never want to cancel life insurance policies unless you've really went over the numbers, right? And the only reason I say that is because life insurance is probably never cheaper than when you bought it, right? And because when you bought it 5 years ago, 2 years ago, or 10 years ago, you were a lot younger, probably a lot healthier, and the cost of the insurance is probably a lot cheaper than today, right? So you'll never get that same deal again. So we want to go over, number one, how much do you need to be insured, right? That's the first thing I think we always start with. And we could analyze this by going over maybe how much you owe in your home, any type of income we need to replace for you or your spouse, things like that, right? Legacy, how much did you want to leave behind? All of that stuff we can kind of go over and factor into the life insurance to come up with that number of how much insurance do we actually need, right? Is it $100,000 or is it $2 million, right? Just depending on your situation. And then we could decide on, okay, if we are overinsured, which ones should we cut and which ones would make the most sense to not pay on and which ones make the most sense to keep. And then we can kind of go that way because there's a lot to unpack there, and you want to make sure you really understand what it is you're letting go of, and if we really need to let go of it, which one's the best one to do that with before doing it.
Okay, Ray, if you'd like to talk in more detail about all of that, why not call Logan Sadler's office? And Logan, when you first sit down with someone, either via Zoom or maybe in person in one of your offices in Hemet or Redlands, how's that conversation going to go?
Yeah, so we always start off with, number one, we tell you a little bit about who we are, our firm, and a little bit more about our process. And a lot of you might be aware because I've said it on the show many times, but really we have a 3-step process, 3 meetings before we actually bring on a client. One is the discovery meeting where you come in and we really just go over who you are, what your situation is, and we really kind of develop there if we're really a good fit to help really assess your situation and be able to provide some value to you. And so there's no sales pitch, no sign-in paperwork or anything like that at the first meeting. We do 2 more meetings before we go over a strategy, go over a plan, and answer a lot of the questions and things like that throughout the process. So it's not one of these types of meetings that you're going to come into and say, oh, I got to make a decision today, right? No, we don't know each other, right? I don't know your situation. You don't know our firm. And so we really want to get a chance to understand what it is you're trying to do, what your goals, your concerns are, what your experience is with money or with a financial advisor, and really show you how we could help bring some value to you and your retirement plan. But it all starts with that discovery meeting for us to get to know each other.
888-823-PLAN. That is an easy to remember number. Call that number right now. Why put it off? Go ahead and call right now. Leave a message with your name and phone number, 888-823-PLAN. That number will put you through to Regari Financial, serving you in Southern California, wherever you are in Southern California and anywhere in the world, really. Call that number, 888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call to get in touch with Logan Sadler. He would be glad to sit down and talk with you. You want to do it remotely, you can do it via Zoom, or you might want to come into one of the convenient offices. Either way, this is going to be a free conversation. As Logan said, you'll have 3 get-togethers before he takes you on as a client. And the reason for that is so you can get to know each other really well. So, you're under no obligation to do anything at all beyond that first conversation. 888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call to reach Logan Sadler at Regari Financial. Hey, Logan, good show today. You brought up a lot of good points, and you've given us all a lot of food for thought.
Awesome. Thanks, Ron. That's always the goal here on the show, and I appreciate each and every one of you listening, and those of you that are calling in and meeting with us. We obviously appreciate it, enjoy the conversations, and we're going to be back here again next week with another show.
The beat goes on the Financial Beat. See you next week.
Regari Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. and BD Financial Group, Inc. are separate and independent entities. The information provided in this presentation is presented for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor does it constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities.